Well, good evening, friends, fellow schizos, fellow noticers, fellow conspiratards. I'm delighted to have you here this evening. I hope you can all hear me. I've kind of got like PTSD from my mic being muted so many times when I go live. We can hear you. Sounds good. Very good. Well, yeah, welcome on in, everyone. Hello to my friends over on Substack as well. Hello to all my YouTube friends in the chat and to everyone who might be tuning in over on X as well. We've got a pretty different episode tonight. I feel like they're all pretty different, but I wanted to cover something here that is, I think, important to keep in mind for people like us, especially. It's something that I'll show you the article this is based on. It's an article I read, I think, over the summer, and it really stuck with me because it explained a lot of the challenges that I deal with, and I'm sure many of you deal with it as well. And so we'll be going through this list of some of the downsides of being a noticer, a conspiratard, whatever you want to call it. And I'm sure you may be aware of some of these, if not all of them. But what I thought we would do is just go through them, and I'll probably argue against some of them as well, because I don't even necessarily totally agree with all of them. So I hope that this will give some perspective and kind of help us to align more with what we call in Orthodoxy the royal path, to not take too extreme of an approach to anything, and to just find a balance. So we're going to be looking at some of those things, and I don't think I have anything else for this evening, so that'll just kind of be it. I've wanted to come on and do something for the stream, but as you guys know, I'm pretty busy. My mind is really just focused on the book I'm writing. I think I'm about, as of right now, I want to say like 40 to 50% done with the writing part. It's like that'll probably change though as I keep going. It keeps getting bigger, but I think I have somewhere around 40,000 words, something like that. But I'm really trying to get that out to you guys, hopefully early next year. And I'm trying to stay on track with that. So needless to say, I haven't really been too wrapped up in a lot of happenings in the world because of that. And I feel actually kind of like less stressed out, less burdened because of that. So it's kind of a blessing in some ways, but touching grass helps. Yeah, thank you, Smudgy Donkey, for that. Yeah, touching grass always helps. Make sure you're going outside. It's tough in the winter. I live on the East Coast, and it gets pretty cold out here. So it's good to just get outside and just like do things, be connected with nature, go out and don't take your smartphone with you. Don't take the feed with you, I always talk about that. So it's very important. So let me just show you guys. Well, before we get into it, let me do some quick housekeeping here. There's not a whole lot of updates since last time, but I wanted to just kind of go through a couple things here. Let me switch over. Come on. Okay. So the Reversion shop is live, if you don't know already. This is our merch shop. So we've got, I think, 5 t-shirts, not a whole lot, but I wanted to just put out some decent quality designs for the initial launch. I think this is our best seller so far, Firmament Enjoyer. So, I've been kind of holding off on the merch slop because it's kind of cringe, like when these creators and influencers or whatever shill their merch. But I don't have any sponsorships. I don't do affiliates. This whole thing that I do here is completely, like grassroots funded, whatever you want to call it. It's completely funded by the community, by you guys, by all the paid supporters on Substack, by the donors here on the live streams. And so, it's like, I'm not shilling another company. These are actually designs that I myself made, that I myself wear. I'm pretty critical in the kind of designs and clothing that I wear around in public. So this isn't anything I wouldn't wear myself. So I feel totally comfortable selling this merch slop, and I hope that you guys enjoy it. We got some mugs as well. One for the book club with Tsar St. Nicholas reading the book, new book club design. And we got a patch here. This one's pretty cool. So I got all this stuff printed and just verified that the quality is good before I sold any of it. So you're definitely going to get something that's not scuffed. And if you do, you just, let me know, please, because I can't be having anything that's scuffed out there. We have also, the book club. This is the only other thing I wanted to update on here. So the new reading list for next year is live. Whoops. Cringe pays the bills, cracker. Yeah. Well, hopefully they're not cringe. I don't want to be selling anything that's cringe, that's for sure. Who knows? That's all a matter of perspective, man. So this is the new book club list for next year, at least initial list. The way that we're going to do this is we'll vote for what we're going to read next, and also keep a kind of a queue. And each month we'll add recommended books from the members of the book club to the reading list. So this is just the initial list. It doesn't mean we are going to read all of these, because we might get some recommendations that I didn't know about and I just add them to the list. And it's completely based on the members. The members get to choose what we're going to read next. This is, again, just kind of an initial list here. I think we did decide that for January, we'll read Matthew Pajot's book, The Language of Creation, which I'm excited about. He has agreed to join us in a Q&A session at the end of the reading. So we'll be able to chat with him and do a Q&A if you're a member. But join for $9 a month. You can get access to that. People are really enjoying the readings and just having the community and all that. It really is pretty unique, I think. So that's that. I will stop the shill now, and we can actually get to the content. So while we're here, I'm going to switch over to this article. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. This is an article by, what's this guy's name? Cato de Zora, who is, I think he's a conspiracy writer on Substack. And this one came up on my feed, like I said, I think, a few months back, and it really resonated with me. Now, this is not coming from, I don't even know if it's coming from a Christian perspective, because one of these points is about, like, it's really critical about, like, oh, you're going to see like organized religion as a psyop, something like that. And I was like, oh, okay. But that's like one of the 9 points he brings up. All the other 8, I see some truth in them. Again, we're going to kind of push back against some of these, but I thought we'd offer kind of like a critical overview of these. So he says here, where can we start? All right, if you're new to my page, you may be intrigued by my promise to unveil and explain a sinister, internationally orchestrated agenda to seize control of the world through manufactured chaos and solutions which are actually traps. And perhaps you want to figure out how to resist it using the information warfare tactics I study and train people in. Yes, I can deliver those things. Okay, I don't even know what that means. It is indeed intriguing, that gnawing desire to figure out what is really going on in our government and in our world. And for some, it has an irresistible pull. Satisfying the craving for knowing is part of human nature, seemingly hardwired into humanity since Adam and Eve. But it like the doomed couple finally achieving that knowing can also hurl you into the paradise of blissful ignorance forever. Like the great Irish playwright Oscar Wilde once wrote, in life there are only two tragedies. One is never getting what one wants, and the other is getting it. If you go deep into this world, you may end up getting all the knowledge you ever wanted, and you may well also end up regretting it. I, of course, hadn't the faintest idea about any of this when I first had the gnawing desire to know what was truly going on, especially after monumental events that shaped much of my life, 9/11 and COVID. Okay, that I can really relate with. 9/11 was my first real red pill. I am old enough to remember what was happening around the events of 9/11 and afterwards as well. I'm Unk, as the Zoomers call me. And so, I was a teenager when 9/11 happened, and I was very curious about what I just saw. I won't go into detail about this because I have a whole stream on 9/11, and I'm sure there'll be more. But this was my first conspiracy rabbit hole. And then, of course, COVID, which this is a big reason why, if not the main reason, why conspiracy theories are mainstream now, to the point where the algorithms are actually promoting conspiracy theories. So I talked about this on the podcast I did with Nick Hinton, which is really, really great. And not because of me, because of him. I was fascinated by that discussion, just listening to him talk. I highly recommend you check that one out. But he talks a lot about that, how his account, his X account grew to like 130,000 followers in a few months because he was writing all these schizo threads that the algorithm was promoting. I experienced some of that myself. That's a big reason why my account grew so much, because I expanded beyond just doing Orthodox exclusive content, and I started posting these quote schizo threads. I was covering more conspiratorial things, and that's where I really saw a lot of growth. So it's really no question that not only is conspiracy theory mainstream, but it's also being promoted by the platforms we use to, consume news and content. Even YouTube now to an extent, right? I'm old enough to, fellow millennial Unk. Yeah, there's a before and after with 9/11. It wasn't good. Yeah, absolutely. And I talked about that again in the 9/11 stream I did, where that's why I think it's a really good kind of like distinction. If somebody was born, not only born, but like can remember the world before 9/11. Because if you were born into the post 9/11 world, or you were too young to remember what it was like before it happened, you were born basically into a different world. I think anyone who's old enough to remember 9/11 and how things changed afterwards would recognize that. So if you weren't old enough to remember what that was like, you have no idea what I'm even talking about. You might have an idea, but you don't have the experience. So that is a real thing, very much so. So I'm going to continue here. He says, it started innocently, though. I saw and heard a number of things that were off and looked at the answers, but the so-called answers posed even more questions. And then I set off looking for the answers to those, and on it went. I uncovered more and more shocking information and grand deceptions that increasingly seemed to be everywhere, until I decided to truly make this a personal mission of mine in the wake of the pandemic in 2020, because I thought people really need to know these things. Yeah. And, that might be true, but it also might be a delusion. Because this is one of the challenges. I don't even know if I have this on the list, which we're going to get into shortly here. But just thinking this out loud, a big challenge to doing this stuff is that you're putting information out there as you're researching, and you don't have the full understanding all the time of what is going on. I've learned this over time, to be very careful with how I put information out there. I'm not saying that I'm great at it, but I've learned to be a little bit more discerning in how I frame things, especially when I don't have a full picture. So, there's ways to do that, but you're always going to be accused of kind of like coming off as like somebody who thinks they know everything. But this could easily get into the realm of deception, where you are thinking like you know something that everyone doesn't, and you need to inform them. It's like, it's so important. It's your duty that you have to inform all these people about something that you are just learning about yourself. So, it's really tricky. I don't have any good advice on how exactly to do that, because it varies so much. But he said, I had no idea how ancient this conspiracy actually is, how sinister its perpetrators truly are, how extensive their reach really is. And I really had no idea how shockingly successful they consistently are in covering their tracks by manipulating the minds of the masses with diabolical ease. Yeah. And that's not getting like, because of the algorithms, like what I was just saying, where conspiracy is mainstreamed, that seems to really not have an effect at all. Like they're all doing the cryptocracy, the shadow government, whatever you want to call them. They're still operating the same way they always have. They're just going to continue on, because as it may seem like it's a conspiracy theory is popular now, it's still extremely niche, and it's only popular like in your kind of fringe world online, and still, I think that in itself it can be really like there's a lot of psyops going on even there. Like there's all these psyop conspiracies that are just meant to kind of divert everyone. So he says, in many ways, this journey itself is a trap, because if you thirst for the truth about simple, obvious scams on humanity, take 9/11, for example, you are going to go down certain lines of research and reasoning that will begin to paint a picture. And unless you are successfully derailed by blatant attempts to obfuscate the truth, the 9/11 Commission report, for example, or a legion of controlled media agents, including many famous so-called conspiracy theorists, you are eventually going to find this out. All the great evil conspiracies against humanity are interconnected. Yeah, well, they're all like the Christian, I guess, or Orthodox take on this is that they're all conspiracies against the church. They're all satanic. So they that's why they seem interconnected, because it's all just the fingerprints of the devil waging war against the church. That's really it. That's why you see all the interconnectedness, all the similarities among all these conspiracies, because it's from the same source. So he says, as a result, you cannot simply research 9/11 because it's going to bleed out into other conspiracies, the intelligence community's fabrications about Iraq, WMDs, Dick Cheney and his deep ties to the war for profit military industrial complex. Okay, on and on. Yeah, you get the idea, especially something like 9/11, because that's kind of like the ultimate conspiracy theory, because it's connected with so many things now. It has really deep roots. And, again, if you watch my video on the 9/11 as a mass ritual, you'll see that it goes really far back in history. Not that the event itself was planned in like the ancient times, but that it's just drawing from all this kind of ancient, esoteric stuff. So he says, I'm not making these shocking claims to cajole you into subscribing so I can... Okay, let's see if we need to read any more of this. Okay, so now he's just kind of introducing what he's going to share. So that said here, the 9 hidden costs. So he gives 9. What I'll do here is I'm going to switch over. I actually have some slides prepared. I took some of his points and I reformulated them and I added some of my own. And so we're going to look at that. Where are we here? Okay. So the first one is you'll be constantly tempted with endless rabbit holes and getting black-pilled. Do not get black-pilled. Okay. When you start getting black-pilled...
Thank you for struggling.
Hey, man, thank you.
I wish you well.
I couldn't see that. Where did... Oh, I'm blocking the donation. My bad. Let me fix that. I completely missed that one. Who was that? Where did that come from? Now I have to go check. Thank you to whoever that was. I completely didn't see it. Let me pull up the Streamlabs alert so I can see your donation there. Totally missed it. My bad. That's fixed now, so. And just a heads up, the best way to donate is probably going to be on the merch shop, on shop.thereversion.co. There's a donate link. You can see it in the description. That way, I get as much of a cut as I possibly can in comparison to the other platforms like Streamlabs and especially YouTube. So if you want to maximize your donation, that'll probably be the best way to do it. Oh, wow. Dang. Thank you, Raimundes, for the, am I reading that right? $77 donation. Thank you so much, my friend. Wow. I really appreciate that. Let me, I can replay it. There we go. Did I do that
Items,
right?
2 total, $77 MSG. Thank you for struggling. I wish you well.
Thank you so much, man. That's a fat donation. I really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. I really do appreciate that. The donations certainly help with the struggle. That's for sure. I do this. I think at this point full time. So your donations go a very long way in allowing me to continue to do this. I really appreciate that, man. That's a really fat dono, and I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much, man. Raimundes, I appreciate that. So the first one, yeah. You'll be constantly tempted the rabbit holes are endless. Like he was just saying there, it's like any given conspiracy, there's a seemingly infinite amount of rabbit holes. Let's look at the Charlie Kirk one, for example. I kind of pulled away from that, to be honest with you, because I started noticing that this is going to be something that's basically like the JFK assassination, where there's never going to be any kind of closure to it. And just basically for the rest of our lives, there's going to be an infinite amount of speculation, new information that resurfaces, that changes all the prior knowledge you thought you had. It's already becoming harder to discern what really happened there. So, it's like, how involved do you want to get in this stuff? And then do you want to make that your main thing? Like it's really difficult to to not get caught up in these things, because they're an endless time suck, and it can become addicting. So you have to keep that in mind, that this can be a very addicting hobby, I guess, to get involved with. And we're going to look at, a lot of these are social consequences. A lot of these are like relational and social. And so the kind of the further you get pulled into conspiracy world, the more detrimental it's going to be to the social consequences and the emotional, relational consequences that you will deal with. So, I'm probably going to be overemphasizing the fact that you have to be very watchful about this stuff. You have to guard your noose, right? You have to be very careful about the amount of information you're spamming into your consciousness, especially all this dark occult stuff, all these symbols, right? That have a real impact on your psychological state, your emotional state, your spiritual state. Okay. It impacts a lot of things. So, I'm sure many of you know this already, but yeah, so that's number one. And then, also don't get blackpilled. I mean, that's easier said than done. I think I mentioned this on my last stream, that I have people asking me very often about questions like, what do I do about this? Like, oh, I can see kind of like the direction that, say, like transhumanism is going in. Like it's very prominent now. Like things are becoming more obvious. It seems, at least it seems that way, right? I feel like everyone throughout human history has felt like they're going to see the apocalypse in their lifetime. but things are just they're getting worse and not better, right? And so the kind of natural inclination is to let that get to you, let it get you black-pilled, and asking these questions like, what do I do? As if you can do anything, right? This is, I think, what we're covering here is more important for your spiritual and your emotional well-being than asking questions like, what can I do? Not that there isn't answers to what can I do. It depends what you're asking about. There are things you could do to like guard yourself in a more pragmatic way against certain forces of the world. Prepping, arming yourself, doing all these things that are crucial to your protecting your family and your own self, your property, whatever. But a lot of these things are actually out of our control, though. So it feels like by knowing about them, you are doing something about it, but it's like in a lot of cases, it's just that thing now, and then you also know that you can't do anything about it. So it's like, what do? Well, just don't get black-pilled. And if you do start getting black-pilled, you're probably just getting in too deep. What does it say? Don't study how the ruling class is harming. So the normies yeah, we're going to get into that too. Yeah, that's, there's a lot to that we're going to get into. This is a good point here, Drifter. Thank you for saying that. The devil uses black pill to make you despair. Besides having a warfare against evil people, you also need to guard your heart from spiritual warfare. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Spot on. Yeah, do not despair. That's why it says I think it's in my intro for every stream, it says to fear not, because, we do cover some kind of dark stuff here, but you have to there's nothing to be fearful of. None of this stuff can actually, I want to be careful with what I say here, but none of this stuff is worth fearing. Let's say that. If you don't guard yourself, it can kind of have a pretty detrimental spiritual impact on your soul. Even just knowing about these things, let alone not knowing about them. So you almost have extra responsibility by knowing about them. So the next one, it's what you hope to accomplish by learning these things you probably will not accomplish. This is kind of blackpilling. Now, this is one of what's this guy's name? Cato. This is one of Cato's points in the article. So he says, you'll come to find out in learning all this is that the extent of control of our world, this small group of brilliant psychopaths, is vast, and that most people are serving the interest of the conspiratorial elite without even knowing that they even exist. As a result, what you will find yourself fighting against is not the conspirators, who are essentially untouchable, but rather vast masses of normal people, your friends, family, and loved ones among them, who push back against you, saying and doing precisely what the conspirators have conditioned them to do. Yeah. Kind of like a lot of this stuff is like interconnected, not in the conspiracy sense, but like all the points we're covering here. I think the general theme is like how this impacts your social life and your relationships with your friends and family, and the various ways that it does so. He says, you'll find that humans endlessly fighting amongst themselves is just a clever distraction, diverting away any attention from reaching the parties truly responsible. This is often frustrating and demoralizing, and it can even end relationships. For most people, it will not be worth the cost. Yeah, and I think, it's weird because sometimes I like envy normies that they don't get involved in all this stuff. Like they might have an idea. Like I'm talking about the kind of normies that have knowledge, like what he was saying here. They have some knowledge that there's like kind of an invisible control mechanism on like a global scale. There's like some kind of forces at work amongst the elites that are that are like pulling strings to some degree, but they don't know anything beyond that. And they almost like, for whatever reason, I think in some cases it's like a pragmatic thing. Like I know I have a close friend from my parish who knows a lot about this stuff, but he just doesn't bother with it because a lot of it doesn't impact directly his day-to-day life, which I think is a fair point. It's like he's raising a family. So how does like knowing about, how many people were really killed in the Hullabunga, how does that change your day-to-day life? Like stuff like that. So I think to some degree, like I don't want to say envy, but like I look at those people and I kind of wish that my mind worked that way. It just doesn't. Maybe that will change in the future when I when I do like really settle down and like build a family and whatnot. But I kind of like look at those people and I'm like, man, that must be nice to just not even be involved in any of this stuff. But for those of us who are, it's like you have to deal with the consequence. So I think that'll kind of take us to the next one here. Yeah, you're going to lose friends and are unlikely to make new ones. Now, this one, look, guys, again, I know that this stuff can come off blackpilling, and I know that's why I put the first one. I said, don't get blackpilled. Maybe that should have been the last one, but I'll just keep saying that. Like a lot of this stuff is like, it seems kind of depressing. This isn't like fun to know about, but I wanted to cover this really because I don't see anyone else talking about it. Like everyone's kind of just cashing in on the demand for all this conspiracy content, and they don't really actually talk about the drawbacks with this, like the social impact of it. So it's like, it's something we have to confront. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure you guys have noticed this. I've met plenty of people who lost friends, myself included, lost longtime friends and family, not like lost family members, but kind of severed ties with family members during COVID. So I think a lot of us can relate to this. This isn't like something that you see and you're like, oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. It's like everyone kind of has experience with this, that you're going to lose friends and family members that, will kind of start to distance themselves from you. I lost like a close friend. I would say my best friend of 20 years. I knew this guy since college and we were really tight. And once COVID came around, I had this kind of like spiritual awakening that like he was done with me. And I haven't heard from him since. I left the city. I was living in the city at the time. And when I left my friends and I never heard from them again. There's a couple of them that I'm in touch with occasionally, but that's it. And I've learned to really refrain from getting into conspiracy stuff with them, because it's like I just would rather maintain the friendship that I have with them. So I found that to be, for those specific cases, I found it to be more important to just maintain some kind of peace in the relationship. And, they don't get easily offended anyway. At this point, it's like I kind of filtered out everyone that was like going to be really upset with me kind of like treading into that territory, I didn't want to have friends to begin with. Yeah, I mean, like this is where I'll kind of like add a positive twist to this. I'm going to try to like frame these things positively as well, so that we're not too black-pilled. But like I said, it kind of acts as a filter, right? It's like, do you really want to be friends with normies who are so close-minded that if you even start to probe the conspiratorial, they're going to just tune you out and be like, this person's a nut job. So, it kind of just acts as a pretty good filter in that regard, because it's like, do you really want to be friends with that kind of person anyway? Now, the downside is it really does limit the amount of people that you'll get along with. But I think to the point where it's like you're unlikely to make new ones, I'm going to push back against that a bit, because I think this is something that's unique to Orthodoxy, is that a lot of, I would say, particularly new converts that are coming into the church, they they're coming in because they're tired of, in many cases, that they're kind of like fatigued from modernity. So they all have that kind of understanding of the world that it's like there's some force at play that is like a nefarious thing that really is deeply embedded in our society. So they tend to be more open to conspiratorial things. And so I have made new friends since I've been Orthodox. I've made some new friends. And so I think that one's a little off, that you're unlikely to make new ones. Maybe if you didn't have a church community, I could see that being a problem. Yeah, I didn't make any new friends outside the church for the past like 7 years. So that's probably true. And coworkers are not your friends, by the way. They might be. Like if you have a special relationship with your coworker and you hang out with them and stuff and have a real connection with them outside of work, then sure. But like, it's all fake relationships. Like your coworkers, like it's just people acting friendly to keep the keep the peace at work or whatever. It's all kind of like defense mechanisms, like social coping mechanisms. What does he say here about this one? Referencing point 2, if you allow this knowledge to alter your worldview, and it probably will, that's unavoidable, you're going to not only see the world completely differently, but you'll see people around you who stay hypnotized by the ubiquitous false information, altered history, and media narratives very differently too. Yeah, and that's like another point that I'll make here is that you also want to be careful that you don't start to have a disdain for normies. That's really challenging. It could be really difficult to like look at normies, and I mean, especially in the context that they're voting for things that are like completely opposite to what what we stand for, right? There's like people that actually there's people that actually want us killed, and would love to see harm inflicted upon us, and. It's like we're instructed to love our enemies, our persecutors. So that's not easy to do. But, it's really tough to like look at these people, these, like masked. And during COVID, it was like especially difficult because you can see everyone visibly that was wearing their mask. Like that was so bizarre during COVID that you could see how brainwashed somebody was by just seeing their face, because it was like you can tell how scared they were. That was a really bizarre experience. I think that alone woke a lot of people up. All the mask zombies. This is being an hour away from church can get very lonely. Any advice to keep ourselves from going crazy in our fortress of solitude the rest of the week? Yeah, that's a tough one. My prayers are with you, Zulu Brownie. That one's many such cases, unfortunately. I mean, Orthodoxy is still very young in America. It's still just now starting to grow, but it is very much a minority in terms of, Protestant, Catholic, and Orthodox. It is very much the minority. And we unfortunately, the parishes that exist, especially in the South, they're bursting at the seams of many of them. But depending on where you are in the country, if you're in America, that is, there are pretty remote spots in America that there's no Orthodox parish within, an hour, sometimes 2 hours, 3 hours from your location. So that is a unfortunate downside. But I would say, I would say like look for online communities that are actually meeting up in real life. Start your own, if you can. But I think this is where online communities are really helpful. You're certainly welcome to join ours. I'm not saying this is the solution to it, but we've got a pretty solid, active group on Discord. If you check the link in the description, you can join our Discord. And there's a few people in there who have the same issues too. So, it's like in some cases that's better than feeling super isolated and not having at least an online community. But yeah, that's kind of that's what I did, at least. I mean, I even was close to a parish and I still felt pretty isolated, because when I first came into the church, it was during the height of COVID, and the churches were like barely even open. Many of them were closed. The ones that were open, there were very few people there. There was all these restrictions. The parish that I currently go to at the time, they were under a mask restriction. So I didn't even get to venerate the icons for the first like 5 months of being Orthodox, or of trying to, become Orthodox. And it was rough. It was a really rough time to be entering the church. Even though I was close to one, I felt really isolated because there was no one else. Like I was going there, I was attending there at a time where people were like, there were so few people going that they were like, what are you even doing here? Like, why is a new person walking in right now? And to me, I'm thinking, when else am I going to, like, what better time to pursue Orthodoxy than now? But, there's just very few people at the church at the time. So I think we covered that one. And the book club too. So again, I'm just going to show my own stuff here because why not? But the book club is a great community that, not only do we have the online community and the fellowship, but we're learning together. We're learning the same material together, sharing our thoughts, going off on tangents and connecting all these ideas together from previous readings, and getting a chance to interact with the authors of the books that we're reading. It's a really unique experience, and it kind of unites us in together. And especially because we're reading books that aren't, in some cases, exclusively Orthodox, and it acts as like a way to draw from a larger pool of knowledge and experience with those with the other members, to kind of filter things through an Orthodox perspective to make sense of some of this more controversial or complicated events and figures and philosophies, historical concepts, whatever, right? Okay, next one here. Hopefully I can not ramble so much that I can get through these. Oh yeah, okay. Dating will become even more difficult than it already is. Surprise, surprise. So yeah, dating is, by dating, let me just preface what I mean here. That could also be courting, whatever you want to call it in the Orthodox context, right? Pursuing a potential husband or wife. Okay. That's going to become more difficult than it already is. Although I'm going to throw in some, in my pushback on this, I'm going to throw in some alternative perspectives on this, but, this is relatively true, I think, in an Orthodox context. Now, we all know that the challenge is already there with being Orthodox, if you are Orthodox, that is, because of what I just said with it, how small it is. And the fact is, everyone knows this. The fact is, it's like a large majority of men that are, like in terms of like the young people or the new converts coming in, it's a large majority of men. It's probably, if I were to estimate, it's probably like almost, it feels at times like 20 men to one woman. I might be over exaggerating that, but it's like probably somewhere between 10 and 20 to 1. So, but that's totally okay. I think it's a good thing, at least for now, as long as it doesn't stay that way, because you want to see the men leading the way. It should operate that way. So like, I think over time, I don't know how long it will take, but over time, you're going to see like women start to, if they want like a more traditional man, they're going to have to look to the more traditional churches, and that leaves them with Orthodoxy or, Roman Catholicism. So I think over time, all these evangelical women, they're going to notice kind of the inverse of what we're experiencing in Orthodoxy. They're going to look around and be like, wow, these evangelical churches are just like full of women and feminized men. So they're going to have to kind of start making a decision with that. But, we have to lead the way as men. So we're still in that phase of like all these men that are coming in and leading the way. Again, I don't know how long that's going to take, but that's just what's happening now. So the consequence to that is obviously slim pickings. So I know there's a lot of priests now that are open to, I wouldn't say recommending in some cases maybe, but they're more open to the idea of like pursuing heterodox women that are just faithful in their heterodoxy to some degree, and they're I guess more easily guided by your devotion. So I'm not going to speak to this much because I'm still a single guy myself. I don't have any authority to talk about the right way to go about like securing a based trad wife or something. But it reminds me of this is like, I'm going to play this video. I'm sure you've all seen this, but this comes to mind every time this topic comes up.
Stop fucking thinking that you need your woman to like align with you completely. You know who's gonna align with you completely? A man. A man with Asperger's. If you want the perfect woke waifu who is down with your cause, fucking go find a man with Asperger's and start dating him. All you gotta do is just let it slide off. Okay? Let it slide off. Stop caring about I've gotten this is a message that I've gotten a lot too. I was dating this perfect girl, but she wouldn't listen to me about the
Brazilian.
So I broke up with her. Now I've been single for 2 years. She's such a cunt. What a cunt.
Sorry,
she wouldn't listen to me.
Language.
I tried telling her about Rothschild and
Brazilian
lineage going back 6,000 years and how it's a blood feud. I gave her a reading list of Hitler books, and she only read half of one of them, and then she stopped. I want a perfect waifu. I just fucking either last night or 2 days ago talked to a dude who had one of these perfect waifus. I don't want to give too much of his info. I will say this. Women who wear the frilly sundress that reveals a little bit of the bosom, and they want to look like 50s or 1920s milkmaids, and they post pictures of the food that they cook, and like, I can't wait till I have a man to take care of with this. I know that's appealing. Those chicks have a gasket loose.
It's so true.
Universally. You're better off with a rockabilly girl. You're better off with a rockabilly girl. You're better off with one of those dames. Look here, Tommy. You're better off with that dame over there by the hot rod. Oh, check out that chemtrail up there. Folks.
Yeah, I'm sure we've all seen that, but it just comes to mind every time because it's so spot on. Like the thing is like, so it's a double-edged sword here with this stuff, at least in my experience. Some women legitimately enjoy when a man has a really deep understanding of the world and can educate them in that regard. I've the last few women that I've been, I don't want to say dating, but like, had interest in, I guess, and pursued something with, they've enjoyed that. Like they were like the type of women that you actually can spurg a little bit on the first meeting, and that going into it, because it's like kind of when you start talking, it just that comes up in conversation. I would say just from my experience, I would say let her kind of show you how much like kind of like you have to be really perceptive of this stuff. Like you want her to like you got to read her properly. So like you want her to kind of prompt the discussion and just really be conscious of like how much she's like truly interested in it. And you'll know because she'll bring that stuff up. So if that's the case, great. But even with that, you still don't want to spurg too much, right? But, you know, if you're going off on these like schizo tangents and she's just like, you have to be like really perceptive of these things. It's not something you can teach somebody, but, yeah. But anyway, in a lot of cases, they do kind of enjoy that to some extent. But then the other side of that is if they're too, like, if they're more red-pilled than you, they're going to find that off-putting. But then also if they're too red-pilled, if they're really that red-pilled or like more radicalized than you, whatever, it's usually because another man or other men red-pilled them first. So it's like you know, it's not, yeah, it is what it is. It's just, again, I don't have too much to say about this, but I think that, you know, yeah, it does make things more difficult. Sure. Because not all yes, more Orthodox women are going to be more inclined to be interested in the conspiratorial stuff for the same reason I mentioned earlier, but not all of them. And then you're really like, you really don't want to do too much to limit the options that are already there, which isn't many. You know what I mean? It's like, don't make that such a big deal that you're like, you're isolating yourself even more and limiting your options even more. Cause like, keep in mind what Uncle Sam said, you know, it's like, that's really not important. You don't need them. You want a woman who's like wife material and is like going to be a good mother. What does any of this stuff have to do with that? Right? If she knows like all this stuff about happenings in the world and she's got all these crazy theories about everything, it's probably like she's probably like too plugged into the internet world anyway. And maybe you are too, to some extent. So it's not just for women. The Brazilians. Yeah. Yeah. Like look, I'm going to be real with you guys. Like I have been on like, I don't want to say first dates, but like the first time I've met with some women, I've brought up that stuff. I've brought up the Brazilians. It's not it's really not good optics on a first date, but in some cases it's like, they know, like it's something you've talked about before going into it. So if you've had all these conversations, like just getting acquainted with each other leading up to the meeting or whatever, then it's maybe you can tread that territory, but be very careful about that. You don't need to have that conversation with women. That's the thing. You don't need to talk about that stuff with women. You have your bros for that. You have our Discord server. You have all of your online Spurg friends in your your group chats to talk about that stuff with. You don't need your woman to do that. All right. So again, like that's like the most practical wisdom I can give you on this, because again, I'm not married or whatever. I don't have it all figured out. But let her kind of like not dictate, but like feel it out for how truly interested she is in that stuff. And in a lot of cases, she might really be super into that kind of stuff. But like, let her kind of like bring up those conversations. In most cases, women like really just enjoy talking about like pretty normal day-to-day stuff. They're not spurgs like you all the time. Okay. All right, let's move on here. Why isn't this going? Okay, come on. Next one. I know it's very visually stimulating. I apologize. There's not really much to look at here. Many people who like you now will stop liking you, but new people who hate you will appear. I'm going to read from Cato's article here, because this is one of his points. He said, if you are someone who has a decent network of social connections around you and you start to delve into this research, your new realizations about how the world works will seep into your choices, habits, opinions, and discussions. It's inevitable. Yeah. As that happens, some people will alienate themselves from you. But if you are ever vocal about it in person or on social media, what you'll find is that they are replaced by an exponential increase in people who think you're insane, stupid, racist, brainwashed, annoying, a know-it-all, or that you are the problem. And what will really catch you off guard is that much of this will come from people who thought you were on their side. Here, let me switch the screen here so you can see what I'm reading. Where are we? One sec. Okay. As that happens, so okay, I read that part. This is the result of countless successful information warfare and controlled opposition operations designed to splinter opposition movements into factions, arguing with each other over the truth while posing no threat to the true perpetrators whatsoever. But it can take a mental and emotional toll on you and become very frustrating. Yeah. Yeah, like that especially applies to the online stuff, right? Like all the arguing online. It's like that's all, you think you're being all kind of like this person who's waking people up, and it's just causing more division and stuff. That's a really big challenge. Some of the stuff that I noticed with this is like, I guess for the Christian perspective, let's, is this the next slide? Hang on. I got to go back to the slide now. But this is what came to mind for me. This is what came to mind. This is John 15, 18 to 25. If the world hates you, sorry, I know I'm blocking it. Let me remove this. Just say whatever. Just be controversial for the sake of being controversial and be edgy, and then be like, oh yeah, everyone hates me because I'm so edgy or whatever. It's like they should hate you for Christ's sake, not because you're a spurg or a conspiratard or something. Oh, I'm muted. Why am I muted? Oh, my bad. That's because that's my bad. That's because I took the avatar off. All right. All I did was read I just read the verse. Okay. My bad on that. I was just reading the verse you're seeing. So I won't read it again. But basically what I was saying was, this doesn't mean you're justified for being, for questioning the 6 million or something and people hate you because of that. It's like, you should be hated for Christ's sake, not not because you are an edgelord or something. I don't know how much of what I said was muted or not, so I'm not gonna be too redundant with that, but you get the idea. What else is he saying here? Sorry, let me go back to the screen. Where are we? Gosh, I can't okay, there we go. Okay, I think that was it. So the next one, did I have any more comments on that? Let me see here. Yeah, like you can see, a lot of these are a little bit like redundant, but I think that each point is significant enough to be its own point. Yeah, and the other thing that I'll say about this specific point, I'll get back to this so you can see, is that you actually do have full control over this. That like how much people hate you, because it's like if you are that person that like can't shut up about all these conspiracies and these things happening in the world that are generally out of our control, and people don't like you because of that, it's like that's kind of just your fault for going too hard, you know? Like just calm down. The thing is, like, you have to maintain any kind of like peace of mind, and it's not that you should have like, it's not that you are owed a peace of mind or anyone else is like owed that you have to be nice to them or whatever, but like for just practical reasons, like you should get used to being able to communicate with normies in a way that it's like you're not causing all of this like diversion everywhere you go. Because like, how can you minister to normies if if you're just a schizo spurg or whatever? I'm using these terms like like we embrace them like ironically, but it's really like for practical reasons in day-to-day life, it's like not. It's really not a beneficial quality to be going around and just like like just going off. Every chance you get. Yeah, you can't force it on people. Yeah. Like I said, a lot of this requires discernment and perceptiveness, like kind of being able to read people to a certain degree. And again, it's like, I don't think this is like a skill that you can teach somebody. At least I couldn't. I like to think I have a pretty good grasp on this because, like I said, I'm able to maintain friendships with certain people that aren't really interested in, for the most part, in this kind of stuff. And I learned that from basically just navigating certain discussions. Like it comes up and you can just like see how they react. If they are uncomfortable, they're visually uncomfortable, they don't know what to say, they're trying to change the subject. It's like, just take that as a sign, bro. Like just, they're not interested. They're not going to hear you out. You're wasting your breath. So you either move on from that and don't be friends with them. Like, I think that's pretty extreme, but maybe for certain things that might be justified. I don't know, but like, either move on from that, or like, you just have to really learn to navigate these relationships with people to have some sense of normalcy. Like, I don't know what else to say about that. I think a lot of this stuff is common sense. So I apologize if I'm like being redundant here and saying stuff you guys already know, but it's like important reminders, especially as like we dive further into a lot of the content that I'm covering here. I think that it's important to keep this stuff in mind. Yeah, I can blend in with turbo normies, just discuss weather. Yeah, weather and sports ball, just talk about what the sports ball player did and, the big play he made or something. It's like, I don't follow sports ball close enough to have those kinds of conversations, but like, there's some like, there is some incentive to kind of have some knowledge about like normal things that normies are interested in, just for the sake of being able to talk to them. If like that's something that is beneficial. Again, if you have a job where you're socializing with coworkers all day and it's like you have to kind of find some common ground, find some common ground with normies. What is that thing? What kind of hobbies are you into, right? It doesn't have to be sports ball and all the bread and circus stuff. It's like, what kind of like common interest do you have that you can connect with that person with? For me personally, like I'm interested in like such a broad range of hobbies and other things that I don't even really talk about here, that I'm able to connect with a lot of people. So I just find that one thing, and you know, yeah, it gets boring. What can I say? It does get boring. That's part of being friends with normies. It's going to get boring at some point, but you know, I don't know. Find what they like to talk about. It's like really not that hard. Like, what do they like to talk about? And, you know, if that's not interesting to you, then maybe it's not going to work out or something. But, you know, it's like you want to be friends with people. There's like sacrifice involved, you know? It's like you got to sacrifice certain things. In this case, it's you have to just not be such a spurg all the time. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. Love me some, sports hole. Yeah. Talk to him about your football bat. Yeah. Talk about the hockey touchdown, the big hockey touchdown from the World Series Bowl. This is a good topic to consider. It shouldn't be used as a reason to discourage research, though. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, no, absolutely. I wanted to frame this in a way that it's like, this is why I wanted to cover this. 'Cause like, you shouldn't be discouraged from researching this stuff at all, but you should know all this stuff going into it, that there are spiritual implications that apply even more so to us as, I'm speaking to Orthodox Christians, especially, that the average conspiracy researcher does not deal with, and that's why they get so much more deep into it. And the thing is, like, even the non-religious conspiratards, they all tend to have some kind of like weird, like Gnostic New Age spirituality. And anyway, the people that get really deep into stuff, like they have this view that everything is a conspiracy, down to like even Christianity itself. You know, you'll see this with all these e-pagans, like, oh, Christianity is a Jewish psyop. Like the whole creation of Christianity is like the Jews trying to control the goyim or something. It's really ridiculous, but like, you know, it has more in common with like these these Gnostics and stuff that like talk about, or not even just Gnostics. I see even a lot of Protestants have this talking point where like Christianity was like subverted during the Council of Nicaea, like Saint Constantine came in and like paganized Christianity, and the church was corrupted this whole time until Martin Luther came along. Like, unironically, they believe this stuff, and it is an actual conspiracy theory, but not even like a real conspiracy theory. It's like a retarded one, because it's based purely on historical ignorance, and there's nothing that you could actually substantially prove any of those claims with. So it's like just something they say. But, you know, and I'll say this too. When we talk about conspiracy, this was another thing that was mentioned on the podcast I did with Nick Hinton. I think it was on there if I remember correctly, but basically like conspiracy itself, the term itself, like has all these negative connotations, because it was kind of mainstreamed by the CIA. Like the term conspiracy theory was to discredit dissent against the JFK, the official JFK Commission report, the Warren report it was called. And so the term itself is literally a psyop to discredit like people who had alternative theories about what was happening. So it is basically used to disparage anyone that didn't buy the mainstream narrative wholesale, right? And so, but what conspiracy really is like, I mean, it happens even in our day-to-day life, like your job, right? There's like, it's just information that you don't have direct access to, or decisions that were made without you being involved behind the scenes. So like your bosses, your CEO, whatever, of the company you work for, they are conspiring behind the scenes over things that may or may not affect your day-to-day life, right? So it's like the moment you walk into work, you're walking into a conspiracy, whether you know about what's going on or not, because there's decisions being made behind the scenes that you don't have awareness of all the time, right? So it doesn't only apply to just like, governmental, globalist kind of topics, Okay, what's the next one here? I already kind of forgot my own list. Well, and again, some of this is this Cato guys. This one, I think, oh yeah, I came up with this one. This is a big one for me. This is something I struggle with. You'll be hated by other Orthodox Christians for making Orthodoxy look schizo, and non-Orthodox will get the impression it is. This is something that may be just unique to myself and like maybe other online posters that have like a larger audience. So you may not be able to relate to this as much, but I'll tell you, if you're on social media, if you're a poster and your followers are going up and you're getting more followers that are, whether they're Orthodox or not, you're going to deal with this to some extent. It's something I've been dealing with the whole time I've had an online presence in the online Orthodox world, or whatever you want to call it. And it gets worse the more you grow, because at least in my case, a lot of people, like an unknown amount of people, let's say thousands of people that follow me, they're not Orthodox, and they don't even necessarily follow other Orthodox accounts, and they're not necessarily following me because I'm Orthodox, right? I don't know how many people that is, but it's probably in the thousands. So whether I like it or not, I'm responsible to some degree for how I present Orthodoxy to those people. Whether I like it or not, I'm like maybe the only like Orthodox perspective they're going to get on anything. I'm nobody to be in that position. I'm not a person of authority. I'm not like well-trained theologically in Orthodoxy. I didn't go to seminary. I'm certainly not a cleric or anything like that. I'm just an average like convert who like knows all this other stuff, right? Like I'm really nobody special to be in that position, but it just turns out that that's where I'm at. And so whenever I post about like this, like stuff that's kind of outside of the realm of like Orthodoxy, like more in the conspiratorial realm, and I'll give two specific examples here. One is the takes that I have on cosmology, which I don't even talk about that much anymore online. Maybe because of this, but also just because I don't think it's necessarily that important. But when I talk about like space and NASA and stuff like that, it like people really hate me for that. I would say that is there's one of two things. That's the first one, and it ties in a little bit with the second one. But that one, people really don't like that because they're like, oh, and I even just saw yesterday or maybe today, someone replied on a post that I commented on, and they were like this is real. No matter how retarded this sounds, this is a real thing. This guy was like, are Orthodox Christians flat earthers? Like, this is how little they know about what we believe. So you have to keep this in mind. Even though it sounds ridiculous, there's a lot of people out there that have no clue what Orthodox people believe. And when you present any kind of opinion, even if it's not an Orthodox opinion, because you're allowed to have your own opinions on things that are non-doctrinal matters, right? Which this stuff is, cosmology, all this kind of stuff. Like, It's largely like non-dogmatic and non-doctrinal. You have the freedom to believe the earth is round or flat or a triangle or whatever. There's no orthodox like view on that. There's no official kind of like universally binding canon or something on that kind of thing, right? But like people, nobody knows that. Like people outside of Orthodoxy, they have no clue. And even a lot of new converts, they come in and they want to know the Orthodox position on everything, on all this stuff that there isn't an official kind of like canonical position on. They want all of it, right? So like there's a lot of that going on, and you have to keep that in mind. And look, I don't have an answer to this. There's nothing you can do about it. It's like, what are you supposed to do? Not express your opinion at all online? You just can't you're not allowed to have an opinion because people aren't able to discern what is the binding kind of doctrines of the Orthodox Church, and like they're not able to separate that from your own opinion. It's like I don't know what to do about that, but that is just the consequence. That is something that happens. The other thing I deal with that like this is something that actually that and the cosmology stuff. This is something that other Orthodox accounts hate me for this. And I get blocked. I have like, whenever I see an Orthodox account that has me blocked and I go to their account and I see their timeline, I know exactly why they've blocked me. I can tell like right away by their post. And it's usually they're very like patriotic. They're very, like really strongly connected to like their Anglo identity, which there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. To be like, have some kind of like pride for your heritage. Maybe to a certain point, it gets into like actual pride and you're like blinded by that. Right. It's like, but in some cases, like with these people, like they put so much emphasis on that like if you have any kind of criticism about like the WASP culture, they get really offended by it. Like they don't like when you kind of criticize Freemasonry, for example. So you see this meme where it's like, oh no, Freemasonry's it's like to counter signal that whole thing. It's like the Giga Chad and he's in the Masonic garb. It's like, all right, man, like, you can't criticize the founding fathers at all. So, I do that. And a lot of people think I hate America and I hate the American heritage because of that. And I'm anti-American. I get called anti-white. I get called anti-American and, anti-patriotic, whatever. That people think I hate America. I don't hate America. I love them. Look, I own property in America. Why would I buy property in a country I despise? It's just really like low tier kind of stuff because it's like I just post things that are critical and I'm not always praising and talking about how great our country is. I do think it's great, certain parts of it, but what am I not allowed to criticize America at all? Or else I'm not, I'm anti-American or something. It's really retarded, but this is just something I noticed, and this isn't just for me. I'm not just like rambling for my own thing. This is like something other people deal with. We get criticized even by Roman Catholics for being anti-Western, like for like being anti-Enlightenment principles and all this stuff that, all this like prominent kind of philosophy that like in a sense governs Western civilization. That is heavily criticized in many of the works of our own saints, of our own modern saints, have much to say about this stuff. Did they hate the West, or is it coming from a place of just recognizing what's true and like not just assuming that because you live in the West and you are a citizen of a country that was founded upon some principles that are good, that you have to accept everything wholesale and defend it, or else you're again. It's like a lot of the stuff is almost like leftist mentality, It gets really into like factions, and I don't like that at all. When people start to turn things into a faction, I check out. So like, I'm glad that those people block me. That's like a self filter that we were talking about with like friend circles, right? If those people, you know, really believe in their heart that I hate America and I hate, you know, whatever, white people or Anglos or whatever, because I say Freemasonry is bad. It's like, all right, man, that's fine. See ya. Yeah. Thank you. Jesus Christ died for you, man. I like that name. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. I don't, you know, this is a little bit like of a, kind of, I don't really express these things too much, like publicly. I talk about this stuff a lot, privately when we have our private Q&As in the Discord, but, you know, I wanted to be a little bit like transparent about dealing with this stuff. I'm dealing with it on a larger scale than the average, online poster or whatever, but you can see, like, just know through me that this is what happens. The more the bigger your audience gets, the greater the responsibility. So it's like, it applies on a small scale too, just not as much. Yeah, it's like, it doesn't bother me at all. It may be used to, but yeah, a lot of Orthodox accounts really don't like me. They think that I represent, or that I'm a bad representative of Orthodoxy. Maybe that is the case. I don't know. But it's like, it's really difficult to get people to perceive, like to understand where your opinion ends and Orthodoxy begins. That's a really, really hard challenge to deal with. And again, I don't have any like good advice on how to navigate that. It's just really, you know, yeah, you got to be very careful, and just know that it's largely out of your control. I mean, you know, my thing is, I just try to stay out of like drama. I think what looks worse, personally, I think what looks worse, what makes Orthodoxy look even worse than all of the, like, the space is fake and the, you know, Masons started America kind of stuff, is the all the drama, like all the infighting, like within the Orthodox space, because it's already such a niche online community that, like, if I were an outsider and I were looking into like Ortho Twitter, whatever it's called, and I saw all this infighting about all these like niche things that I don't even really understand what they're talking about, that's going to put me off more than like there's some kind of like schizo posters, you know, there. It's like, that would put me off even more. So that's my personal thing. Like, I just try to stay out of like drama and getting involved in like these like really kind of insider disputes that are going on, because that becomes really divisive and it gets really, really toxic. So, you know, it's really like, the thing is, the platforms are designed for divisiveness. So it's like, by means of you using these platforms online, especially, it's just part of the nature of the platform. It rewards divisiveness. So you want like, you want to get a larger audience. You want to have like viral posts or whatever. Well, guess what? They have to be really, really divisive. That's what works. It's like, not that's why engagement bait works. People don't like it, but it works to get engagements. It's not a good way to grow an audience, but it, you know, works because it's using the platform as it was designed, whether you like it or not. Anyway, what's the next one here? Because I think I've gone on long enough about that. Did it skip? Okay, here. Oh, yeah. You'll see that the left-right paradigm is manufactured, but when you try to explain that, both sides will see you as their enemy and hate you. So this was one from the article from Cato. Let me pull up the reading on that. So he says, I won't switch the screens. This is a short one. He says, the tiny group at the top has immense power, enough to make you personally suffer for exposing or provoking them, particularly if you are plugged into the system or if you have a notable voice. the most effective way they control the masses is through control of money, which today has almost no resemblance to the concept of money as it has existed throughout history, but is now a really sophisticated system of human behavior control. Yeah, that I totally agree with that, and I've said this before on previous streams I did probably a couple years ago. The Federal Reserve, that is one conspiracy that does affect your day-to-day life. That is something I believe you have a responsibility to understand how money works and how it's controlled. And how, the paper dollars that we have that we call money is monopoly money. It's fake. And it doesn't actually represent anything other than the system that issues it, the system that issues the fiat.
Recently started studying church history and looking into orthodoxy. I really enjoy listening
Epic. Thank
to
you,
you.
Truth Seeker.
Keep
I appreciate the
fighting
10,
good
man.
fight.
Thank you so much for that. And God bless you in your journey into exploring church history. There's a saying that I think it was a Catholic theologian that said this, but it's equally true. He said that to study church history is to cease being Protestant, something like that. I know there's Protestants that would counter that, but I think for the most part, that's what's true. That's what did it for me. I started studying church history and realizing like the fact that I didn't learn any of this was a big indicator to me. The fact that I went through an entire bachelor's degree studying Protestant theology and came out of it thinking that the First Council of Nicaea had something to do with the creation of the New Testament canon. Like this is stuff I learned in it's like this is how little I learned about church history, even as an academic, but yeah, that's I'm glad to hear that, man. Thank you for the 10. I appreciate that. But yeah, like with the stuff without the money, like this is something I do think is you have a great responsibility, especially as a man, as someone who should be the breadwinner of your family. You have a great responsibility to understand how the money system works, how who controls the banking system, how it came to be, taking measures to protect your wealth. And by wealth, I mean, just your general wealth, like the money that is in your name. Investing in precious metals or crypto or whatever it is, like having control over your money and not having it all in like a bank or in these paper dollars. Like that's like something I think is very, very much worth putting great effort into understanding. Whether you're a conspiracy theorist or not, that is something you need to understand. Because there's going to come a time, if it's not in our lifetime, it probably in our, in the next generation or in a few generations to come, there's going to be an economic collapse. I mean, this whole system is a house of cards. The whole financial system in America, it's really like you would be shocked and horrified if you really knew how bad it was. It's really a castle. It's like a sand castle or whatever. So it's just a matter of time, and it can happen really quick. It could be like a rug pull that everything just can collapse very quickly. So to know that to some degree, at least to the point where you don't have any trust in the banking system, I think is very useful and does very much apply to your day-to-day life. And especially when you understand, one of the books we read actually this year in the book club, it was about the other one is the school, the education system. That's the other one, which ties into the banking system. But there's stuff. I think those two things I would say apply to our day-to-day life, because like that whole the whole education system plus the banking system is like that's literally why you wake up to go to your 9 to 5 job. It's why there's a 40-hour work week. It's why you're not taught finance and business in school. Like all these things are part of that system. They're intentional to keep us these kind of like compliant wage cucks, like to keep us kind of compliant with this kind of like nonstop grind that you're supposed to do until you retire at a certain age. You just keep punching the clock until you retire. That is all part of that manufactured system. Thank you to the Protestant work ethic, but yeah. So like there are very much conspiracies that do affect your day-to-day life. That are they're substantial, like historical evidence. They're not even conspiracies. They're just conspiracies in like the general sense, but it's like they're real things that are happening. Yeah, I'm noticing. Yeah. I mean, do early life checks at your own discretion. You get to a point where it's like you don't even have to do the early life checks anymore. There's that meme where it's like the Matrix meme. With it's like Neo and Morpheus, and he's like, are you telling me that I'll get to what is it? Something like, are you telling me that you can just early life check anyone? And he's like, and Morpheus is like, I'm telling you, you'll get to the point where you won't have to. If you're not there yet, I don't know. You should I don't know. I hardly do early life checks anymore. It's almost just like, oh, why would you even do that? You should know better. Anyway, yeah. Oh yeah. The dental. Yeah. That's a good one too. The dental and orthopedic industry. Yeah. I mean, the pharmaceutical stuff. Yeah. A lot of this stuff is just, the industries themselves creating problems that weren't there because they're offering the solution to the problem. That's kind of the whole thing. So, all right. What else does he say here? As a result, where is this? Oh, wait. Okay. So the point that I'm covering here, I think I skipped something and I was reading a different one. This is about the left-right paradigm. Okay. I totally was on the wrong point, but that's all right. He said, this is so this is related to point 8 that you're looking at right here. He says, this is the most poignantly demonstrated in U.S. politics, in which virtually every participant is a Democrat or Republican, but both of whom are blatant, controlled by the same groups at the top. At this point, wait, did I read this? It becomes clear that there's a third hidden elite agenda constantly rammed forward while both parties are in perpetual deadlock over anything that would be remotely good for the people. Before long, politics will become an utterly pointless and ridiculous show to you, which is a good thing, honestly. But you will also despair when you understand that votes don't matter a bit and that your elected representatives have no will of their own anyway. And that's before being attacked by friends and family for being a bad citizen or having no right to complain since you didn't do your part. Yeah. Oh, this is another, I would say this even ties into the previous one that I was saying, that at least personally, I get a lot of pushback from even, other Orthodox people, especially that are super neck deep in the MAGA movement, who I would consider cultists, to be honest. At this point, if you're still this supportive of undying support for the MAGA movement, I'm sorry, but you're in cult territory at this point. But they do exist, and I do, I get a lot of pushback from those people. I hear it more from people on the right than from the left. The left doesn't even really engage with my stuff, really. It's it's all within our echo chamber, I guess. But yeah, this is a real thing. The more you get, the more you start to notice things that there is no, the left-right paradigm is just dialectics. It's just like a dialectical control mechanism. It's like you don't really, it becomes really hard to participate in politics. It becomes very difficult. I don't see this as a bad thing because, I mean, I think that there is no, there really is no political solution. There might be stuff that is more closely aligned, like movements or parties or particular politicians that are more closely aligned with our ideals. But like, you're not going to see a president on a political stage, or let's say not even a president, a potential candidate for presidency. You're not going to see them get very far if they are on a like they're campaigning for something that is radically opposed to the elite's agenda. So like Zionism, for example, you're not going to see an anti-Zionist presidential candidate. It's never going to happen. You'll never see that. That's just one of the things. That's just one example. You will not see that happen. So there's certain things that are like, you'll just never see. And so you can look at that and be like, well, okay, well, I'll just vote for the other stuff, like, abortion. Abortion is like totally reasonable thing to be like, if you're going to be a one issue voter, a vote for the candidate who's going to reduce abortions. Fine. I get that. So I don't personally say like, don't vote, but I'm at this point where he's talking about here, where it's like, you just see that it's pointless to vote, because they're going to get who they like. Even if it's like someone who's like kind of oppositional to the agenda, it's like never going to be so oppositional that it like really causes like something that's going to dismantle everything, you're not going to get like, you're not going to vote your way into monarchy. Yeah. You're not going to get a based or Orthodox monarch by voting in a democratic system. This is why, I'm going to switch screens here, but I have here, I guess this is me taking an opportunity to shill a little bit, but this is, sorry, one sec. This is why I have this patch here. This is why I made this patch. This is to show that you have no political allegiance. Hell is a democracy and heaven is a kingdom. So it's a quote from St. John of Kronstadt. So that's basically my political philosophy. It's like I'm opposed to democracy. So if you're opposed to democracy, why would you participate in it? That's just me. Again, I'm not telling you don't vote or that there's no good reason to vote or something, but maybe this is some of my like libertarian baggage that I still have from when I was a libertarian. I was like full blown ANCAP. So like the whole like voting was like one of the first things that did it for me. I remember like some of the arguments are like pretty like they're pretty interesting. Like when you break them down, when you break down the logic, it's like this was one of them that got me about voting. It was like, if nobody voted, right? If nobody voted except one person, there's one person that like the whole, let's say the theoretically, this has obviously never happened. And this is why I separated from libertarianism. It's like all idealistic and utopian, but this is just an interesting argument. It's like, if nobody voted and only one person showed up to vote, does their vote, so there's two things. So if one person voted, then the one person gets to select the ruler. But then if nobody votes, who selects it? So if nobody participates in democracy, who gets to be the president? How does that work? So obviously that's not something that is like needs to be considered at all, because you're always going to have participants in democracy, but it's just like, fundamentally it breaks down to that. Like it requires everyone to participate in it and collectively agree that they are willing to be participants. So a lot of it is like, it's manufactured consent. All right, let me switch back here. I figured a lot of these would lead to just like, tangents. So forgive me if I'm going off too much. Okay. So let's get through this. We're almost done here. I think I kind of covered this next one. Okay. That I might have like accidentally kind of added a second, like a more closely related. Yeah. Here's what I wanted to show. This is also what I think of. I know it's just one quote, but I love this quote. Christ is the only exit from this world. All other exits, sexual rapture, political utopia, economic independence, are but blind alleys in which rot the corpses of many who have tried them. That's from Father Seraphim Rose. I love that quote. So, it's not saying don't participate in politics or don't, be financially savvy to some degree. It's just saying like the more kind of utopian approach to that, to like seeing these things as solutions to like get us out of the direction that the inevitable direction that world history is heading towards, which is the end of the age. These all lead to the Antichrist. They all lead to the age of Antichrist, all these utopian kind of ideals, So it's just to kind of like temper that expectation and to keep you from getting like super involved in some kind of like political faction, like to the point where you think like this is the way out. If only we just had this kind of like form of governance, then, it would take us to, our like kind of utopia or our kind of like Chiliastic vision or something, right? It's like none of this is going to get us out. Like there's systems that would be better, that we'd be better off with. But there, all this stuff is leading towards, there's another great quote from him. I forget, I'm not going to be able to paraphrase it well because I forget how it goes, but it's something like how all of these efforts, like all these political efforts, they all lead to the Antichrist. So it's like, yeah, I mean, your voting is only going to kind of like, maybe the best you could do is like temporarily for the next 4 years, hope that you're slowing something down. But are you really? If it's all, it's all accelerating basically to the end, it's like, what are you really controlling by voting? So, again, it's hard to not get blackpilled with this stuff, but I think there's like a healthy kind of like skepticism that we should have about our rulers and the fact that they don't have our best interest in mind anyway. Like what would it be? What would the harm be in like keeping that in mind? That no matter how charismatic these leaders are, they don't actually have our best interest in mind. I disagree. I don't like anything about monarchy. I'm a constitutional Republican. I mean, that's fine. That's fine. No, look, again, this is another thing. It's like, I get people asking about this. Like, they're like, do you have to be a monarchist to be Orthodox? No, there's no like, now I will say historically, when you look at church history, we have this concept in Orthodoxy of symphonia, where the church is working in synergy with the state, right? It's not the same. It's not like the same apparatus, but they're working in synergy together. That's how the Byzantine Empire functioned. That's how the Russian Empire functioned, right? For hundreds of years. Like, we actually historically, we know that we've had that model has like worked for longer in human history than democracy. Democracy, from a historical perspective, is still like an experiment, basically. Like, we still don't even have enough historical evidence that it's like a feasible long-term political solution. So, look, you could be either, like, it doesn't matter. I try not to spurg too much about this. This isn't something it's not a hill that I'm going to die on personally. But it is our kind of ideal, generally, this is our ideal form of governance, because that's how it's worked throughout church history again. So, like, now on a pragmatic level, how practical is it to expect another Orthodox Christian empire to be established in America? It's like, probably not going to happen. That's probably not going to happen. And in fact, just expect that to never happen. So it's like, how can you actually be a monarchist in America? You can support the idea of monarchy, but it's like, there's nothing for you to do if you're a monarchist. Like, what do you do to get a monarchy in America? There's not really anything you can do to influence that. It didn't work for Athens. Yeah, I'm not saying like it worked. I'm not saying it worked in every instance. I'm just saying that it's like we've had this model, in terms of human history. This is like kind of what we've used. And that doesn't mean, again, it doesn't mean it's always worked. But, yeah, it's like, I don't know. I don't have answers to this stuff, guys. I don't. I'm just telling you, if you're a more of a constitutional republic guy, great. I'm not going to judge you for that. So yeah, I mean, my thing is like a lot of the American kind of the Americanism, the American ideals, they're mostly based on Enlightenment principles. And, I won't get too into this because I talk about this enough, but I think largely Enlightenment principles are at odds with Orthodoxy. And we know that because many of our saints have strongly opposed Enlightenment thought. So yeah, again, I'm not going to, this would be too much of another tangent. So I'm going to try to refrain from that so that we can actually get through this here. What's the next one here? Okay. We're on the last one actually. Yeah. Okay. This is an important one. You're going to start to look for conspiracies where there may not be any. You're going to waste a lot of time, looking for conspiracies everywhere. Oh, I skipped one. I'm going to add it. I'll cover it after this one because I think I see what happened here. I skipped one. So we'll say this is 9 and not 10. But yeah, you're going to start looking for conspiracies where there aren't any, because you're just going to automatically assume that everything's a conspiracy. And the thing is, at the point where we're at now, that's largely true. But it still isn't always true. And it's becoming harder and harder to discern if something is really a conspiracy or not. It's becoming harder to figure that out. And so I think because of that, the more natural kind of attitude, and you're going to see this growing exponentially as this stuff, grows in popularity, but that's almost become the default assumption now, is to assume that it's a conspiracy until proven otherwise. My personal take on this is that it's actually been like a safer approach than assuming the opposite, that the official narrative you're being fed is actually what happened until that's proven, until that's disproven. I personally think I've been doing this long enough that I see now that the odds are in your favor if you do think that something's a conspiracy until proven otherwise. Now, where I think this gets, where it can get dangerous is trying to impose the conspiracy. That's where I think you could get carried away with that assumption, which is a safe assumption, but then going to, okay, I'm going to figure out this conspiracy and I'm going to start almost like making connections that aren't there because I know it's a conspiracy. So I'm going to like impose this kind of alternate perspective and start to assemble these details and construct a theory. That's where like you could be onto something, but like also you can just as easily be more deceived from what is really happening because you are kind of in this desperate scramble to like construct this narrative. So I recognize this with like, I'm going to refer to the Charlie Kirk assassination. I was pretty careful and I probably still didn't, probably still didn't give it enough time, but I gave it like a whole 10 days before I even expressed like an opinion on what I thought was going on. And again, I'm not even saying that because of that I was accurate in what I said about it. But because so keep in mind, because of the popularity of conspiracy theories, there's an incentive for especially these like large conspiracy accounts to be the first to break something, to be the first to come up with a theory that makes sense, that you become like the authority on this thing. There's a great incentive for that. You can grow really quick. You could see really rapid growth. You can really grow in your influence and authority if you are even onto something remotely that makes sense. And so there's a great incentive to do this. And that's what I try to refrain from doing. Because that's where it basically gets into incentivizing that whole thing that I just explained, where you are like in this scramble to make these connections that are at least convincing enough that you win over a bunch of people to your theory or whatever. And now in a lot of cases, there's stuff that emerges, especially with these events that are clear psyops, that you can almost detect right away that have these patterns that occur throughout history, that you can recognize and say, well, that at least is a strong indicator that there's something going on here.
Watching you on YouTube. Saw this patch and
Let's
it's
go.
awesome.
Thank you.
God bless.
Organized Insanity. Thank you, man, for purchasing the patch. I hope you enjoy that. I know it's a little bit expensive for a patch. I tried to price everything pretty reasonably. They're a little bit expensive, to get embroidered and stuff, but it's good quality. I have one myself, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you put it on somewhere that's pretty visible, so you can, start the kind of conversation that I was saying earlier, that you don't want to get too involved in, but I think it's a good conversation starter for sure. Thank you for purchasing that, man. I hope you enjoy it. I put mine on my book bag. So whenever I carry my book bag around, it's in everyone's face. You got to deal with it. Sorry. Yeah. So, the thing is that's pretty much what I was saying. It's really tempting to kind of go that route. And again, I know a lot of the stuff I'm talking about, it might apply more to people who have kind of a voice online, who have some level of influence. It becomes even more tempting. But I think even on an independent level, just as a researcher, right? We're talking specifically here about research, okay? So even as an independent researcher, if you're not a public figure, or you don't have a big audience or something, you're just privately doing your own independent research, you still have that temptation. It's just kind of less of a temptation, because you don't have that incentive to I got to be the guy that breaks this, So that's something to really be careful about. So again, I'm not saying that it means that that usually it's not a conspiracy. I'm saying the opposite. But because of that, you have to be extra discerning. And I'll say that this is kind of more broadly related to all the things that we're covering here. I forgot to mention this. I meant to mention this in the earlier point, but this stuff, one of the great responsibilities we have as Orthodox Christians with this kind of research, we have a great responsibility to balance this stuff out with spiritual work. I'm talking about writings of the saints, practical spiritual wisdom that actually draws us closer to Christ, stuff about prayer and asceticism, right? All these things that are necessary for us to live and suffer the Christian life. Okay. That becomes even more important. I'm speaking for myself too. I try to remind myself of this all the time, and I do take efforts to do this. I'm not great at it, but I'm very aware of this responsibility, that because I'm steeped in all of this research, that the average normie Orthodox Christian is not reading this kind of stuff at all. I have an even greater responsibility to balance it out with more practical spiritual wisdom. So I try to make efforts to do that. I try to read an equal amount of like lives of the saints and spiritual writings, the Bible, right? I try to as much as I am researching, but it doesn't always work that way. Especially when I'm writing this book, it's like a lot. I'm really steeped in this research right now, but so I'll just say that as well. Okay, the third one, or let's say the 10th one, because I kind of mixed one in there, but I'll switch to. We don't really have a slide for this one. The other one that this guy Cato had was, let me see, where is it? Number 8, it won't make you any money, but it would cost you a lot. I thought this was a good point too, but I'm going to push back against this too. Well, I kind of see what all right, let me read this first before I express my opinion. He said the tiny group at the top. Okay, this is what I read earlier. I mixed it up. So he's talking about the group at the top has notable influence. They control the masses. They control the money, right? So I think what he's getting at here is within the workforce, right? Like obviously there's a risk involved with getting canceled, getting doxxed, all this stuff that would actually affect your day-to-day life by expressing this kind of these opinions, these counter narratives to a certain degree, especially involving the Brazilians, let's say, right? There's a great risk involved with that, and I think what he's saying on this point is that the risk is not worth the reward financially, at least, because of the implications. It's like you could literally lose your livelihood over this stuff, even while it's mainstreamed, because there's an equal response. There's an equal counter response. Look at all these politicians like Randy Fine and all these guys that are like, all they're talking about is anti-Semitism. It's this huge problem. So as much as that's growing, there's an equal counter response to it, and there's an equal amount of like action taken against it, right? So you're always going to be at risk for that. There's always a risk for, what you're expressing, how you're expressing it. Are you anonymous? How anonymous are you? Are people able to figure out who you are, and what kind of power do they have to actually impact your day-to-day life and to actually keep you from earning a living, right? So in that regard, there's no money in it. Now there is, on the alternative side to that, there is money involved in like grifting, obviously, because it's so popular to talk about now. You have all these like conspiracy grifters and stuff. There's literally people making a living from only posting about Brazilians. There's people that are actually, probably not many, but I'm thinking people like Jake Shields and, what's his name? Lucas Gage, very small group, but like still, you can make a living from that. Nick Fuentes, it's very hard for them to be making money in a traditional sense and like have a bank account and stuff like that. But you can make a living doing it. It's very rare, but there's always a risk. All those guys are like in constant danger of their livelihoods, of their physical health, their well-being, their their mental health and all that stuff, right? So there's a great price and trade-off that's involved with that. And so, yes, you can make some money doing it. I think that you should never assume that you can, though. So few people can do it. So there's really, and when you do, there's really not a whole lot of money involved in it. It's like you're way better off, like, just not doing all that and trying to make a living just for the sake of your family and for your well-being and all that. So, but it's really hard though, because it's like, how do you keep your mouth shut? There's a great risk. I was doxxed for it and harassed by communists. I lost my family over it. Yeah, it sucks, but I feel pretty based after. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that sucks. I know plenty of people as well that dealt with really extreme consequences. So, yeah, I feel that. It's really tough. I mean, like as far as like feeling more based after, it's like, yeah, I mean, I can understand that, but where does it get you? Like, where does that leave you? It's like you're still kind of left in that situation, regardless of how you feel. There's also this kind of other side to it where if you're big enough, this only applies to so few people, but like if you have a big enough following and you get canceled, it kind of brings more attention to you. So like people perceive that as like you're more legitimate if you got canceled. If people like made an effort to silence you and censor you, they see that as like, well, he must be onto something then, which is usually true. But the problem is a lot of these creators, I just saw what's her name? Lily something. I forget her name. That girl everyone was saying was like astroturfed, who just came out of nowhere and just started posting all this racist content on TikTok or whatever. And now I guess she became like a YouTube personality and didn't have any backup plan. She just went all in on YouTube, got demonetized on YouTube. And now she's like desperate. You know, she's having to do the whole, what's it called? Not GoFundMe. I forget what the GoFundMe is for like all these kind of right wing adjacent people. Gives and go. They start this gives and go because they don't have a backup plan. So it's like, hey guys, I lost my livelihood because I went all in on this one platform and I need money now. So it's a very common mistake that I see with creators that are, they know they're covering controversial stuff, that it's a matter of time that they're going to get demonetized. And then when it happens, they're like, oh, I don't have anything else. What am I going to do? Well, you should have covered your tracks. You should have set up something that, excuse me, allows you to continue what you're doing with little friction. Yeah. Give, send, go. Yeah. This is why I shill Substack. I mean, Substack's not totally safe from all of this, but at least for now, you can get away with quite a lot on Substack. And on top of that, if anything were to happen, your following is an email list. It's not just like, you're not dependent on that platform. Like Twitter, for example, or YouTube, right? It's like you're borrowing that audience. You don't actually own that audience. You're borrowing it from the platform. The platform is allowing you to access those people. So you still have full trust in that platform to disseminate your content and to reach that audience. And it's also dependent on the algorithm, by the way, which can change at any moment. And it does. And I see people complain about that all the time, that they're not getting as much engagements because something changed that they don't know. It's beyond their control. Why don't people know about this? Like, you can literally go on Substack, start driving people to Substack because you actually own access to them by having their email addresses. So if Substack goes down, all you have to do, or you lose access to, you get your account suspended or something, you have an export. You should be regularly exporting your email list so that you own that. No one can take it from you. No one can take your email list from you. That is a digital asset that you own. And so worst case scenario, you don't have Substack anymore. You still have those emails. You take those emails, you import them to another platform, and you can, or self-host the email service, and you still have direct access to those people in their inbox to your whole audience. So that's why I drive people to Substack and not on YouTube or Twitter or Instagram or whatever, because you can fully own access to that audience if you're on Substack. And there's really no other platform like that in that regard, where, like I can go live on a stream and it's going like the people watching on Substack, they know that I'm live right now because they got emailed that I was live. On any other platform, you just have to be like, on that platform to know that the person's live. So I shill Substack because I really do think it is at least right now as it's operating, a great like alternative to all this stuff, that like something that's worth going all in on, opposed to the other platforms, because, you have no control over them whatsoever. So it really frustrates me when I see these creators like that, you know, they went all in on the JQ and made that their main thing. And then they're like, oh guys, I lost my audience on YouTube. I can't monetize anymore. It's like, well, dude, come on. You know better. You really know better. Because every time that happens, you lose like a good chunk of your audience. You have to get them all over to a new platform now. You have to tell them all like, hey guys, I'm on Rumble. You have to constantly remind them. Every time you do that, you're losing a huge fraction of your audience and you're kind of starting over, not completely, but you know, with a smaller audience every time. So it's just a pain. Like, why do you put yourself through that? Ghost says, that's how I found out you were live on Substack. Yeah. Because you got emailed. Yeah. And there's a responsibility with that. It's like, you don't want to bomb everyone's inbox every day, but you know, if you signed up for it to some degree, signed up for notifications in your inbox. So, and Telegram too. You could like all these platforms where there's like a notification, like it's like alert based system. Like you can't assume that everyone has alerts on. A lot of people, they turn them off. So even if you're like notifying people on Discord, on Telegram, whatever, you're relying on them having notifications on for your updates. So again, you're bypassing all of that with Substack because it's just direct email. So it's just a mystery to me why these people aren't putting as much effort into Substack as they are with these other platforms. And then they get all surprised when they lose their audience. But like I said, there's a risk. That's true that there is always a financial risk. So you just have to be really aware of this stuff. And, I realize this is like, I'm speaking to kind of a smaller group of people that this is applicable to, but it's something you should know about even as like someone who's got an online presence whatsoever. Even if you have like 30 followers or something, it's like, you're just dealing with the same stuff to a very small degree. And you have to think about why you're using the platform to begin with. What's your goal in using it? Many people, they don't care about their followers. It's like they're just reply guys or something. But anyway, lots of rambling here. And, I appreciate you guys like even listening to me ramble. So thank you. If you're still tuned in, I appreciate all of you. I love you guys. Thank you so much for all the donations. I really appreciate you guys who donated, especially our top donor here, Raimundes for the $77, Truth Seeker for the 10, and Organized Insanity for buying the Monarchy Now patch. Thank you so much, all of you who supported this and keep this operation up and running. Like I said, I have no sponsors. I'm not shilling other products. I'm not shilling affiliate links. It's all, this is all community support. So I really appreciate all of this. And, I love you guys for it. And, I want to let you know as well that because of your support, it's allowing me to take the time to, and another super chat.
Jesus
Thank
Christ
you,
died for you, man donated $5 through
thank you,
super
Jesus
chat.
Christ died.
Thanks.
Thank you, man. I appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much, bro. Like all the support is allowing me to write the book I'm writing and take the time to do it. I don't know how I would be able to do this if I had a family and a 9-to-5. So I'm really trying to take advantage of the time that I have to be able to do this. And I really don't want to disappoint you guys with this book. So I thank all of you for the support, even if it's, a few dollars here and there. It all collectively enables me to do this. And I don't think you'll be disappointed with this work I'm doing. I don't want to get too feel like too self-important about it. But I mean, there's really nothing out there. What I'm writing about, there's really nothing out there, because I would know by this point. I've come across so much research. I've been researching this for 3 years. I wouldn't be doing this if there was already something that was presenting it in a way that was that I knew was better than how I could do it. So in some sense, I do feel that it is worthwhile. So I thank you guys for the support, because that's allowing me to do it. And, once you see the work, I think you'll understand what I mean. So yeah, like I said, I'm about, as far as like currently, I feel like I'm about 40% done, and I hope to have it finished within the next coming months. So yeah, thank you for allowing me to do that. I just wanted to say that. And the book, I have the dedication page written too. And the dedication is to all of you guys who've supported me. It's just like a general thing. I can't name everyone, but just a general thing. It's like basically dedicated to everyone who's enabled me to do this with financial support. So thank you guys. All right. I will actually stop myself from rambling now. So thank you all again. I appreciate your support, and we'll see you for the next one. I don't know what I'll be covering. I kind of decide this stuff like pretty last minute. We do, I'll say this. I do know that I have coming up in, I think another, I think it's on the 17th, in a couple weeks, I'm having a guest on, who will be covering, some of the, I don't want to say conspiracies, but well, it is kind of conspiratorial. We're going to cover the topic of Rasputin. I get asked about Rasputin very often, and he's not somebody I really knew much about until I recently started reading more about the Romanov family, about the royal martyrs. And that piqued my interest even more than before. And so I've been, trying to learn about Rasputin. He was a very highly slandered man. And that was because, I believe it was because of his closeness to the Romanov family, the Holy Martyrs, and how much they trusted him. And so I'm bringing on an expert who's studied Rasputin. He's on Substack. I think he goes by, oh man, I don't have the access to his Substack right now, but you guys, stay tuned for that. You'll get all of it. He goes by Rasputinite. I don't know what he goes by on Substack, but yeah, he's like primarily focused on studies on Rasputin. So he's doing all this like translation work and stuff. So I think it'll be really interesting. Yeah, Rasputin. Thank you, Ghost. Yeah, Rasputin Archive. Yeah. Yeah, he goes, yeah, check out the Rasputin Archive on Substack. So I'll be having him on in a couple weeks. So stay tuned for that. If I'm not live next week, that'll probably be the next episode that you get. It'll be that one. So I probably will be at some point. But yeah, all right, guys. Again, I'm going to actually stop myself. So thank you. Have a wonderful evening and a wonderful rest of your week. Hold fast in the Nativity fast. Stay strong, and we'll see you next time. God bless.